Dear Harstem, why do Zerg units suck so much against Protoss? Now, don't get me wrong, I know I suck. The thing is, the Ultralisk sucks even more. I opened up with a standard hatch first into 3 hatch. My early game wasn't the best as I forgot spores and sure lost a decent amount of drones to an Oracle. However, I managed to stabilize and go into Hydra Ling as I knew my opponent was going for an Oracle Blink Stalker timing since my Overlord saw the Stalker count and he was building 3 Oracles. I crushed his push and he recalled back home, so I counterattacked. Somehow a handful of Stalkers with a single super battery can hold like 30 links, so I backed off to cut my losses and macro into Lurkers, as I knew I was either even or ahead and the stupid Zealot run-bys were bound to come soon. I defended all of his dumb attacks and was so far ahead I looked at going into Ultras, since I already had melee upgrades. Somehow Stalker Zealot with literally 2 Colossi killed like 10 Ultras, and from that point I lost the game as I exhausted my bank and couldn't rebuild. I really don't understand how gate units can destroy an army like I had, but I think it's brain dead. So, am I really that bad? Or am I brain dead? Or is perhaps Protoss imbalanced? This imbalanced complaint form was sent in to me by Maggot, a Korean diamond player at 3800 MMR, asking whether Protoss is imbalanced or if he sucks. And we're gonna find out. Alrighty, here we go. Maggot versus a blue Protoss player whose name I can't read. So we're gonna refer to this person as the blue Protoss player. Hatch first goes down. That's a nice little start here, actually. As we saw the Protoss attempt a hatch block. Didn't, of course, work out because the hatch went down in time. It was a little bit too late with that probe scout. Happens to the best, Mr. Protoss. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, little buddy. So we're gonna most likely see a gas into a pool from here on out. Let's take a look at... Oh, look at that. Probe is actually running around trying to deny some mining. I didn't know this was happening at the diamond level as well. Sometimes it feels like diamond players have actual brain damage, all of them. And then other times I watch them play, I'm like, wow, this is actually quite nice. This is, you know, this feels correct. This feels good. Like, moves are being done, you know, moves are being made, builds are being played. It just feels right. And it's kind of correct here. You see the Protoss forgetting to build the Nexus at 20 supply. It's 1 supply too late, but we're going to not be too critical of that. I don't think I care enough about it altogether. There were some interesting things, of course, that I already saw in the imbalance complaint form that I just kind of want to, you know, point out ahead of time already. For example, we saw Maggot mention that he knew there was a Blink Stalker Oracle attack coming and that his response was going to be Hydra Ling. As if this was well known to be the hard counter to Stalker Oracle attacks. To my knowledge, and I of course have limited knowledge, but to my knowledge, Hydra Ling isn't the hard counter or a blind counter or even the preferred counter by a lot of Zergs to any type of Blink Stalker attack or any type of Stalker Oracle attack. The reason for that is because the Hydra is very gas intense, and the moment you're investing a lot in gas, it usually means that your eco is a little bit worse, and most Blink Stalker or most Stalker Oracle attacks can be held with either pure Ling Queen, if you have melee upgrades on the Lings specifically, or with Ling into Roaches, which is lower gas and thus allows you to get more drones out. So he made it, Maggot made this seem like this was like such an obvious call, and I kind of fell for it. It was like, ah, right, of course, he goes for the Hydra Ling. And I was like, wait, why does he go for the Hydra Ling against the Blink Stalkers? Like, I'm sure it's going to work as a defense, but there's a lot of things that could work as a defense. You could also stay on 2 bases and tech to Lurkers and build 12 spines. Like, you probably wouldn't die against a 3-base Blink Stalker attack if you're teching into 2-base Lurker, but it just puts you in a very poor position. So we're just gonna, you know, keep an eye on some of these things here, that we don't get tricked by his sweet words, because Maggot, he's a rider. You can feel that, you know, that it was poetry in an imbalanced complaint form. That's what that was. All right, he was sweet talking us. Well, not really sweet talking, but he was talking, you know, beautiful. I like that form. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, you can see I'm not a poet. I'm struggling with the words. Maggot would have phrase that way nicer. Here comes an Oracle. This is perhaps the Oracle that is going to go into the main and kill some stuff, as mentioned in the forum as well. Queens convincingly out of position. There are 4 queens out, which is a good amount. 2 are in the front, 1 is in the main, 1 is in the natural. This is a completely incorrect split of the queens here. There should be 2 in the main, there should be 1 in the natural with a spore, and 2 at the third base right now. That is not the case whatsoever. Instead we have, well, 1 queen too little and 2 queens completely out of position. I mean, he said the reason why he took so much damage is because he didn't have spores. The reason why he took so much damage is because his queens were out of position, really, and also because he was lacking 1 spore. Really, you only need 1 spore early on against a single Oracle. Dealt significant damage. 7 worker kills in the first 5 minutes. Yeah, that is pretty darn big. It's annoying. It sucks. Follow-up for the Protoss player is going to be Forge and Twilight. As both of the Oracles are still alive. It's a double Oracle into Forge Twilight. I'm expecting 2 more gates to be added. At least 2 more gates. I think this Protoss might have copied Hero, and in that case we might even go up to 6 gateways, as that is the preferred gateway number for Hero majority of the time. Pro production is looking okay. Drone production is looking fine as well. Double gas is being taken in the natural very early on, by the way. These bad boys have been... is it very early on? It's quite early on. It's not very early on. It's quick gases for sure. Bailing Nest coming down. This was a double Oracle opener. A Bailing Nest went down at 5:30. I just want to make sure that we're all aware here that if this was any type of timing attack as a follow-up... So, okay, I need to explain something here first. A lot of the time, if Protoss opens up with 2 Oracles into a Twilight Council, it can go into either Glaive Adepts, or it can go into very fast Blink Stalker timings, or even Charge Lot timings. And these timings can hit really freaking hard. In order to beat that, I believe you need to have a Roach Warren that starts latest at, 440, 445, something like this, or a Bailing Nest that starts at that particular time, because both Bailings and Roaches are good counters against either Glaive Adepts or against Charge Lots. If you started at 5:30, your Bailing Nest is going to be halfway done, and there will be 12 Adepts dancing in your natural. So, in a way, Maggot got very lucky here that his opponent wasn't doing anything of the sort. His opponent went for a more standard Blink Stalker build, but Maggot is theoretically dead already. If a different build would have been played here from a 2 Oracle opener, then yeah, he would have died. Against 3 Oracle openers, I think you can get away often with a 5 minute and 10 or 5 minute and 15 second Roach Warren or whatever, or a Bailing Nest, maybe just a 5 minute mark. Don't want to have it too late in general. We're gonna get a real quick Hydra then here. And we see the worker count is 55 to 57. As the gas mining is going. Look at this. This is what I was talking about earlier already, right? We have that insane investment in gas. He wants to be building links because you need links. If you're only building Hydras, you can't hold Blink Stalkers. You'll just lose the Hydras and never kill anything. You need links for the surround, keep them in place, and for tanking as well. And as a result, you're not maximum mining on the minerals here. So it loses the fort base as well. Maybe kills an Oracle. No, it doesn't quite. 12 workers have been killed already. And this stops. This is so funny to me. This is okay. Just look at what happens here, okay? Just look at what happens here. This is not a hold with Hydra Ling. This is a hold with Queen Ling. These Hydras, completely useless. The gas that is being invested in here, the larva that is being invested in here, all could have been something different. Like, he could have had way more minerals, which is not something he really needs because he's floating 1k as well. But this is a defense with Ling Queen. This is not a high... Like, the Hydras are here for moral support from the X. They're screaming, whatever noise Hydras make. And despite holding, without taking any damage, my man Maggot over here is still down 10 workers. He is absolutely down 10 workers. Blink here is about to be done. This wasn't even really a Blink Stalker push. This was a push with Stalkers. Now he goes for a counterattack. Fights without his Hydras. So these Hydras have been rushed out just for moral support. That has been it. This has literally been it. Double Evil's now going down. There wasn't even melee upgrades yet. I hadn't realized that. I thought this was going to be some type of melee rush. Playing Hydraling Bane without having quick melee upgrades is kind of a big move. As in a very bad move. So not a very big move at all. It is just bad. It really is just kind of bad. Both players floating an astronomical amount of money over here as well. Which also isn't quite brilliant. At least I'm not as huge a fan of it. Gonna get a Oracle Stasis. Gonna get a Revelation on this army. The Pro's taking a little bit of map control. I'd love to see a fort base for Tolls as well as a Templar Archives. This is such a classic Templar Archives timing. This I'm not a fan of, the Robo Bay. So if you're playing Robo Bay, you really want to get that Colossus as fast as possible out. Because the Colossus is a unit with a timer on it. Whereas the Templar is a unit that has no timer on it. Hell, the Templar puts a timer on the opponent most of the time. So if you want to get Colossus out, you'd rather get them quicker. This is really late for a Robo Bay. And if the Lurker then is already producing as your Robo Bay is producing, that's a very, very bad sign. So although I like the overall position here for the Protoss player, I actually do believe that to be a pretty major error. I think it's bad. I really don't think that is good whatsoever. I'm liking the Zealot setup though. Zealot run by setup. That's good. Oracle scouting around. Gonna throw down a Revelation on this once more. A couple of Stasis Wards wouldn't hurt, as there's no charge quite yet. This is a tiny army, but I think big enough to deal with this, especially if the Zealots just straight up walk into them Banelings. Good kiting though with the Stalkers as well. This fort base is still gonna go up. I'm surprised that Maggot doesn't really feel the need to scout whatsoever. Like, Maggot is completely in the dark about literally everything in life. He's like, how many bases is my opponent on? What type of tech is there? No Overseer has been built yet in this game. I like that he pretended that the Hydraling was a response as well. I don't actually... You know what I think happened? It's like he had to justify after the replay why he went for Hydraling. And then in the replay, he saw that his Overlord scouted Stalkers. And he was like, oh, I saw Stalkers, so I went Hydras. I don't actually believe that was a response. I don't buy it, because this guy just doesn't scout. Like, this guy is completely... He just doesn't care what the opponent is doing. He has a plan. Hydraling Bane into Lurker every single game. I don't think there's any strategy involved here. You know, he believes... He thinks he's playing a strategy game, but... He's like... This is like the guys that can finish one of them Rubik's Cubes very fast, you know? And... The first time you heard about it, like, they can fix it in 5 seconds. Like, oh, they're genius, they're intellectual, smart. But no, they just remember a little trick. And it's the same here with Maggot. Maggot pretends like he's making decisions, but he's not. He's just following the steps. He is absolutely just following the steps here. Zealot run by being set up. That's nice. We have a bunch of Lurkers out now. Actually, let's do it. It's time. We haven't used this in a long time. It's time for Harstem's mid-game review. It's time for Harstem's mid-game review. Woo! Alright, so far, what have we seen? We've seen mediocre counterattacks, we've seen bad unit compositions, and low drone counts all around. However, despite those mistakes, Maggot, I think right now, is in a position where he has a lot of momentum, or should have a lot of momentum. There are 7 Lurkers out on the map. There is a Baneling Hydra army, and there is nothing in the entire Protoss force that could potentially deal with Lurkers. So what should the Protoss be doing right now? The Protoss' only chance is to consistently counterattack. Send in Zealot run-bys and counterattack. Because the moment Maggot gets across the map and burrows any amount of Lurkers over at the 3rd or over at the 4th, if Maggot were aware of that 4th base, of course, but even if he just burrows them at the 3rd base, he kills his opponent 100%. Like, there's nothing in this army that can fight into 7 Lurkers. You can't even fight into 4 Lurkers at this point with this army. It is simply impossible. Banelings deal with the Zealots. Lurkers deal with literally everything else that is on the map, which is mainly just Stalkers. So, in my mind, this game should end in the next 45 seconds to 1 minute. That's the end of Harstem's mid-game review. Woo! Let's see what Maggot is going to do, actually. Let's see if he realizes, okay, he gets F2's his entire army to the left side, wants to clear these Zealots. Perhaps not a bad move, okay? At the 10-minute mark is really when the timer started ticking. It's like tick-tock, tick-tock. Protoss decides to go back home, which is a clear mistake. A very clear mistake. because he can't actually defend at home. There are 7 lurkers out on the map. Currently, 3 of them are defending these creep tumors and giving some coverage to these spines. 2 of them are over here on the right side, defending the 2 spines and these as well. Where's the other 2? I was on the left side, so he's just defending with them. It's an interesting move that I don't necessarily agree with. Now, if you want to deal... like, this is really stupid. I don't like this. Because he's dealing with the Zealot Rumbais just fine. But at the same time... he could have killed his opponent completely. Like, imagine if even if there's just 3 lurkers here, it's just a free win. This is like having a gun on someone and then shooting in their shoe because they're very good at kicking. It's like, if your goal is to kill the other guy, just shoot him in the chest or in the head or whatever. It's like... It's like, oh, his kicks are so annoying. Let me shoot the legs. Like, no! He's gonna punch you to death now. Well, actually, this game is still pretty over. Really, at any point, these lurkers can move across the map and finish the game. Okay, 9 more lurkers get constructed here. I do like that as well. I mean, you still have freaking 50 supply, that's fine. Don't forget, I guess, that a lot of the supply here is in these lurkers. The 7 lurkers that will remain at home at all times. But still, 9 more lurkers brings the total up to 16. Good lord, that's a lot of lurkers. Let's not forget that Maggot is also completely unaware of the fact that there's a 4th, as well as a 5th base right now going up. These might be, you know, important information to know. I was going to say prime locations to attack, but really the 3rd base is the prime location. There's no cannon, there's a battery. Maggot has been standing still here now for about 20 seconds. Not entirely sure why that is. He sets up shop on the ramp. Okay, now we're moving forward again. Burrows in. This is good. This is actually good. Needs to go a little bit quicker. Doesn't actually have seismic spines yet, by the way. Good lord, I didn't even realize. That might turn into a bit of an issue. He now rotates towards the bottom side to cancel his opponent's 6th base. Of course, Maggot isn't aware of that. Maggot thinks this is the 4th. I'm up 5 bases, lol. Take 2 more, lol. This is a macro game. This is the Zerg pretending to macro as well, by the way. 72 work is not really a macro game. Like, this is a concealed all-in. Loses a couple of these lurkers. Now tries to move forward. Probably wants to get a couple of Banes in this comp as well to deal with them Zealots. Moves forward, moves back. Loses 2 lurkers for free over here. Beautiful stuff. Not entirely sure what the goal here was for Maggot. But if the goal was to lose lurkers and not achieve anything, I think we can consider that goal achieved. We definitely can consider that this was a successful mission. Operation has been accomplished, my dear friend. For sure. Okay, queens go down. Lurkers are going to take care of this, obviously. Burrows again. Yeah, this is not much of an issue. Still have this position as well. Here come a couple of Purification Novas. Poof. Don't move away from them. It's much more fun to hit them head first if you're a Hydralisk. Ultralisk Cavern. Now he realizes, wait a second, my lurkers with 8 range aren't working against these disruptors. Now, Maggot here could have gone for the direct counter of the disruptor in the Viper. That would have potentially been a good move. But instead he's going for the Ultralisk. Now the Ultralisk is very good if you have a lot of creep. And there's not a whole lot of creep. I guess it can also be helpful without creep. But the Ultralisk and the Lurker, they fulfill a very similar role most of the time. They're in the late game, they're good at taking fights against gateway units, and they're good at taking out bases. So they have, yeah, like I said, very similar roles. As now finally Maggot realized, hey, wait a second, there's a freaking base over here as well. What is this, your 5th? Yeah, probably. He's now going to scout this 4th as well. He's gonna leave the base alive. This is a very high tier move in a base trade. He's pretending to go for a base trade, attack your opponent's base, leave your lurkers behind, then go back home with half of your army while not killing the base. Okay, lurkers now are gonna move forward. Well, eventually, well, actually, you can probably just warp in 2 zealots and deal with that. Oh, Colossus coming in with a flank. This is the first time in my life I've seen a Colossus flank. High tier move though against pure Hydra. 9 ultras on the way. Do we have chitinous plating? No. Do we have what's the anabolic synthesis? No, we also don't really have that. There's a bunch of disruptors in this army as well. Lurker's still active. Here come the zealots, gonna deal with that. That was a pretty decent Purification Nova. This one's also going to connect with a bunch of Hydras. Not quite sure if you want to run down this ramp as another Purification Nova hits. This is one hell of a retreat here. There's still, what is that, 1, 2, 3, still 5 lurkers just sitting at home. During the all-in attack that Maggot is doing here, don't forget, this is an all-in attack, 69 workers, no money in the bank. This isn't really the fight that I was promised. I was promised a fight with 10 ultras against a gateway army of similar size and 2 colossus. I hadn't expected that the ultras weren't going to hit these units a single time, because that is really what's happening here. Like, for how little these ultras are fighting, they're honestly doing a pretty okay job. Yes, they're getting completely destroyed and not really killing much of anything, but there was nothing to keep this army in place. In my mind, I hadn't imagined just a pure 9 ultras. I thought there was going to be units there. Like, the thing with the ultra is that it is very powerful if it gets up close and starts fighting. It has good tanking power, good damage output, and lots of HP. But you do need to get close to the opponent. So usually you surround with links, or you hit a fungal, or you have like a baneling coming in from the side, or you come with the ultras from 2 sides. The ultra list is kind of as if you're in a fight and you have an anvil in your hands, all right? And you're running at your opponent, or well, speed walking at your opponent with the anvil and saying things like, I'm gonna drop it on your toes. It's like, it's very unlikely your opponent is gonna stand there and take it. It's like, oh, you're gonna drop it on my toes. That sounds pleasant. It's like, no, he's gonna run for his life. And it's the same against the ultra. If you give your opponent the ability to kite away, he's obviously gonna kite away. I'm not sure what these lurkers are doing here, but I guess dying is the correct answer. Like, the issue with none of the armies that Maggot has had is that they were too weak. It's just the fact that his opponent realized that his opponent's army was better, that Maggot's army was better. He would just run away. Against the lurkers, he just ran away. And then Maggot is like, oh, that sucks. Well, I guess I'll do nothing then here for 30 seconds. And now with the ultras, it's the same. Like, he's just kiting. These guys don't have... He also doesn't have the speed upgrade. The speed upgrade finishes after the fight. After he complains about ultras being so bad. It's like, oh, I wonder why the ultras are so bad. If you don't get the freaking speed upgrade. Like, if you had the speed upgrade, that first fight would have gone significantly better as well. Was the resources lost there? That's gonna be... yeah, it's gonna be wild. That's what I was thinking already. Like, this is the type of game where I look at it and I think to myself, why? First of all, why do we hate spellcasters so much? All right? Why... Okay, the Disruptor was countering the Lurker, and rather than saying, oh, that's annoying, I wonder if there's anything I can do about the Disruptor, and maybe a Viper could help me and pull the Disruptors into my army, and then Lurkers are freaking busto. It's like, no, he's like, okay, Lurker don't work anymore. What's next? Ultra. Ultra fulfills pretty much the same freaking role as the Lurker. So you're just replacing a unit that's on a bit of a timer with another unit that's on a bit of a timer. On top of that, your upgrades are significantly worse than your opponent. So the Protoss player went for double forges. I think in the first fight, it was like 3-1-1 upgrades against freaking 2-1. I don't even think there was Kite in his plane. There was no Anabolic Synthesis. Also, with your first like 4 Lurker pushes that you did, there was no Seismic Spines. There was no Adaptive Talents. Half of your Lurkers are staying at home the entire time. It's really just kind of sick to watch how far ahead you got at certain points despite playing significantly worse the entire time. Like, your calls are incorrect, your Hydra Link counter was incorrect, your drone count is consistently too low. The opponent actually was playing pretty okay StarCraft. He was kind of mirroring pro players, and you literally just sat there and at some point roll in 10 Banelings, kill 30 Zealots because neither of you know how to micro, and then you believe that you deserve to win the game. No, you didn't. Your opponent has honestly outplayed you the entire game. I actually do believe that your opponent played better, had better army movement, had significantly better understanding of what units to build, what counters to go for. You just went through your plan. And then at the end of the game, you look back at the replay and then you try to justify why you made those calls. It's like, oh, he had Stalkers, so I went Hydras. Oh, he went Colossus and Stalkers, so I went Ultras instead of just getting Lurker Vipers. Like, there's no thinking at all, and it really shows in your gameplay as well. You have no clue what your goals are, you have no objectives whatsoever, and then the only thing you can do at the end is complain about the Ultralisk. That, my friend, is not the Ultralisk sucking, it is you who sucks. And Protoss ain't imbalanced. And that's the way it is. All right, that's going to be it for today's episode of Is It Imba or Do I Suck? If you did enjoy this episode, don't forget to hit the like button. Send in your own replay if you believe that you have found the holy grail of IODIS and that there's something truly imbalanced in this game. please send it over to me and I'm going to have a look at it. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks so much for watching and bye bye. Smash like.